Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really cracking open the conversational cone of English.
Yeah, we're looking at how people actually talk,
Exactly. We've got source material from expert linguists, teachers, and instead of just, memorizing lists of words,
which only gets you so far, right?
right, we're focusing on four specific foundational phrases. These are structures that, honestly, they unlock smoother, more confident communication.
Mm-hmm. The kind of phrases that native speakers use almost without thinking.
Our mission today is really to get past simple translation. We want to understand the intent behind these phrases, why they're used, when they're used.
And that intent, well, that's everything, isn't it? For you, the learner, fluency isn't just about surviving a conversation.
No, it's about commanding it.
Exactly. Commanding it. And these four phrases, they're like keys. Keys to professional clarity, to social warmth, and maybe most importantly, to intellectual precision.
Intellectual precision, I like that.
Yeah, we need to know not just what the words mean, but why a native speaker reaches for this specific structure in that specific moment.
Okay, so we're going to unpack the nuances, the scenarios where you'd use them, the cultural context behind them.
All of it.
The goal is for you listening to be able to integrate these immediately, right into your daily speaking, whether that's, a big presentation at work.
Or just saying goodbye to a friend.
Yeah, exactly. Think of these four phrases as like your essential toolkit for really commanding conversation.
And the mastery really is in the details. It sounds simple, but if you can accurately define, say, the limits of your own knowledge, or politely ask someone to explain something complex again,
That's powder.
that is real linguistic power. So let's start with maybe the ultimate professional safety net. Okay, let's dive in. Pillar one,
Mm-hmm.
the art of seeking clarification, but respectfully. The phrase is, could you go over that again? Now, if you're a learner, and maybe you often just say, pardon, or repeat that,
Yeah.
which is fine sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. But you might be missing a huge opportunity, especially in professional situations, for showing deference, for precision.
This phrase, could you go over that again? Oh, it's like a surgical tool. It's much more strategic than just asking someone to repeat themselves.
Okay, break that down for us. What makes it so strategic? Well, there are two core parts, right? First, the politeness marker. Could you? Could you? Not can you?
Exactly. Not can you. Can you asks about ability, like, are you physically capable of saying that again? Which can sound a bit demanding.
A little abrupt, maybe.
Yeah, potentially. But could you, using the conditional could, it's deferential. It acknowledges the speaker's time, their effort. It says, I respect that this might take a moment, and the information was complex, so if you would, please help me understand.
That's a really critical difference, isn't it? Especially, like you said, in formal settings or with your boss or a client. Sounds like you're questioning them, maybe even their clarity.
It can, yes, whereas could you is a polite request for their willingness. It's much softer, much more about, social lubrication through grammar.
Okay, so could you handles the politeness. What about the second part? The second part is the key phrasal verb, go over. Go over, not repeat.
Right, and this is the game changer. If you ask someone to repeat something, the implication is often just, you didn't hear it. Maybe the connection was bad. Maybe you zoned out for a second.
Okay, so it's about auditory reception.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
But when you ask them to go over something, you're signaling something different. You're acknowledging the complexity of the material. You're asking for a review, a re-explanation, maybe a step-by-step walkthrough.
I see. That makes so much sense. Like, if I'm in a meeting and the CFO just listed, say, 8 budget points really fast, and I just missed number 6.
Mm-hmm.
Asking them to repeat that might imply the room was noisy or they mumbled. But asking them to go over that section again, maybe go over the budget allocations again.
Yes, that implies you understood the overall structure, you grasped the general idea, but the information was dense, and you need to consolidate that specific part. It puts the focus on the info, not on you or them.
I love that. It subtly shifts the responsibility in a way. Precisely. Which leads us right into Scenario Deep Dive 1, the professional setting. Imagine you're listening and you're in a meeting. Someone presents complex data or maybe a 4-stage project plan. Okay?
If you just nod along but you only half understood stage 3, what happens next?
Well, you're setting yourself up for mistakes down the line. Wasted time, wasted resources.
Absolutely, and perhaps more crucially, it impacts your professional image, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. If you pretend you got it and then mess up later, people might think you were careless or maybe just not capable.
But if you pause and use this phrase respectfully, something like, that was very detailed, thank you. Could you perhaps go over the implementation timeline again?
It changes the narrative.
Completely. It shows you were engaged, you recognize the complexity, and you're being diligent. You're ensuring accuracy before moving forward. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of quality control.
It's a professional safety net, like you said. It demonstrates thoroughness.
It really does. It signals to everyone, your team, your boss, that you value getting it right.
Okay, but let me push back slightly here. In some workplaces, everything's about speed, right? Go, go, go. Isn't asking someone to go over something, slowing things down, isn't just saying, say that again, quicker?
That's a fair point, and it gets to the core of effective communication versus just fast communication. Yes, say that again. Might be momentarily faster, but think about the cost. First, it can be vague. Does the speaker repeat the last sentence, the last two, the whole point? It could actually be less efficient if they repeat stuff you already understood.
Okay, good point.
And second, the potential for errors if you don't clarify properly is huge. The time lost fixing a mistake caused by misunderstanding almost always outweighs the few seconds saved by not asking for clarification.
So using could you go over the Q3 projections again is actually more efficient in the long run because it's specific.
Exactly. It's specific, it's respectful, and it targets the precise information needed. It prevents bigger delays later. It's not just manners, it's smart project management.
Right. Reframing it as efficiency makes a lot of sense. Okay, so that's the professional world. What about learning? Ah, yes, scenario deep dive 2. The learning environment. This is absolutely vital for you, the listener, if you're actively learning English or any new skill. Because information overload is real in learning situations. Lectures, tutorials, workshops.
Absolutely. You're bound to miss something when the density of new information is high. Maybe it's a step in a software tutorial, a key term in a lecture.
And this phrase, could you go over that again? It becomes your control mechanism, doesn't it? It's like hitting rewind on the crucial bit.
Precisely. It empowers you, the learner, to manage the pace, to pause and consolidate before moving on. It's active learning.
Yeah, imagine you're learning some complex software, maybe financial modeling or something. There are 5 steps to set up a report, and you just blank on step 3.
What do you do? Guessing is risky, right?
Yeah,
Especially with financial software.
very risky.
So you use the phrase, you say to the instructor or look up in the tutorial, okay, I think I followed the first 2 steps, but could you go over the configuration settings for step 3 again?
And any good instructor respects that. It shows you're engaged and want to get it right.
Exactly. It's precise, it's polite, and it ensures you build on a solid foundation.
Otherwise, you get that awkward moment 5 minutes later when everything grinds to a halt because you pretended to understand, nodded along.
We've all been there.
And now you have to admit you're lost, and maybe they have to backtrack significantly. Using the phrase up front prevents all that.
It's about exhibiting confidence in your commitment to actually learning, to competence. It's not admitting weakness, it's demonstrating strength.
Okay, so could you go over that again? Professional precision, learning empowerment. Got it. Let's shift gears now.
Let's do it. From precision to connection. How do we leave people feeling good?
Right. We're moving from maybe the serious meeting to the casual farewell. The phrase is, have a good time.
Ah, conversational glue, as you called it. Seems so simple, doesn't it?
Incredibly simple.
Yeah.
But using it correctly at the right moment, it really signals cultural fluency, a certain warmth.
It's deceptively simple.
Yeah.
The key thing our sources highlight is that it's specifically idiomatic. It's a set phrase for expressing hope for enjoyment. And crucially, it's focused on a future event or activity.
Right, it's always looking forward. And it's really flexible about how far forward, isn't it?
Very flexible. It could be for something happening tonight, like, oh, you're going to that concert, have a good time.
Or it could be for something much longer, like someone's about to leave on a 2-week vacation.
Heading to Italy, wow, have a good time. The duration doesn't matter as much as the purpose of the activity, pleasure, leisure, enjoyment.
So you're basically projecting positive feelings onto their upcoming experience.
Exactly. You're wishing them happiness, fun, satisfaction in whatever they're about to do or wherever they're about to go. Okay, let's dive into scenario deep dive 1. Planned social events. Let's say it's Friday afternoon, work's wrapping up, and you bump into a colleague. They mention they're going to a friend's birthday party later. Perfect scenario. You chat for a minute, then as you part ways, you say, sounds like fun, we'll have a good time tonight.
It's the ideal social lubricant, isn't it? It closes the conversation warmly, it shows you listened, you acknowledge their plans.
And you offered a genuine positive send-off. It's part of that conversational choreography We don't just stop talking, we transition smoothly.
And it fits so naturally into the flow. Like, oh, your road trip sounds amazing. Be safe. And yeah, have a good time. It works for parties, concerts, dinners, watching a game.
Any planned leisure activity, really. It reinforces that positive, casual connection. Okay, what about just general goodbyes? Scenario deep dive 2. Informal farewells and departures. Yeah, this is where it gets slightly nuanced. While you can use it more broadly, it's often best reserved for when the other person is specifically going off to do something fun or recreational.
So if a colleague is leaving for their weekend beach trip, have a good time, is perfect.
Perfect. But if they're just, say, leaving for the day or heading to a dental appointment,
Probably not have a good time then.
probably not. You'd more likely use something like, have a good evening, or have a good weekend, or even just a very common, have a good one.
I have a good one.
Okay.
It's hyper common, especially in the U.S., right?
Extremely common. It's a sort of all-purpose, casual farewell. But have a good time still carries that specific connotation of wishing enjoyment for a particular event or period.
It's about matching the phrase to the context. I remember hearing someone learning English say something really formal like, may your lunch break be filled with joy, to a coworker just grabbing a sandwich.
Uh-huh. Yes, a bit jarring. Calibration is key. Have a good time or have a good one keeps that casual, positive rapport just right for informal situations.
So, the takeaway for the listener.
While there are regional variations like have a good one, the phrase have a good time is universally understood across the English-speaking world to mean, I hope you enjoy this upcoming event or activity.
Using it correctly shows you're comfortable, you're fluent in the social niceties. It's simple, but it leaves a warm impression.
Exactly. It's a small phrase with a significant social function.
Okay, so we've covered clarity and warmth. Now let's pivot again, pretty significantly, towards intellectual awareness.
Yes, the next two phrases are cousins, in a way, but crucially different. They're about how we talk about what we know or what we think we know. All right, the third phrase, hear of something or hear of someone. This one's all about confirming or denying passive knowledge. Passive is the key word there. The emphasis, especially for you, the learner, is purely on exposure. Have you been exposed to this name, this idea? It does not imply expertise or deep familiarity.
So it's like the lowest level of awareness.
Pretty much, yeah. It just means the name, the concept, the person.
Yep.
It's somehow crossed your path. Maybe you saw it in a headline, heard it mentioned in passing, saw it on a list somewhere.
It's like saying, yeah, that rings a bell, but don't ask me for details.
Exactly. You're specifically not claiming you know them personally or understand the concept deeply or have used the product. You're just acknowledging that the term itself isn't completely foreign.
Which is probably why it's used so often in questions, right? Or negative statements.
Absolutely. If someone brings up something potentially niche, the natural first question is often, oh, have you heard of that? Like, have you heard of this new author? Have you heard of this particular theory?
And if the answer is no, you'd say, no, I've never heard of them, or I haven't heard of that.
Right. You're denying the initial exposure, the input.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily saying the thing doesn't exist, just that it hasn't entered your bubble yet. Okay, let's make this concrete. Scenario Deep Dive 1. Cultural references and names. Maybe I'm talking about a specific historical figure who isn't super famous. I might ask you, have you heard of Governor Spotswood of colonial Virginia? You might have heard the name in a history class once, even if you don't remember anything specific about him.
Right. I could say, yes, I think I've heard the name, which signals basic familiarity. Or, no, I can't say I've heard of him. It establishes the baseline of shared knowledge, or lack thereof.
It works for brands, too. We're thinking of switching to this new accounting software. Oh, which one? It's called FinFlow. Can't say I've heard of it. Perfect example. It sets the stage for the other person to provide more context, if needed. It defines the boundary of your current awareness. And this applies also in Scenario Deep Dive 2. Testing general knowledge, right? About places or maybe obscure events. Definitely. You might ask someone, have you heard of the Great Molasses Flood in Boston? Many people haven't.
Right. It's a real thing, but not common knowledge. So asking, have you heard of it, is gauging that general awareness level.
The social dynamic here is really interesting, as the source material points out. It's about managing expectations.
How so?
Well, saying I've heard of X is much less committal than saying I know X. It signals, okay, the term is familiar, I can probably follow along, but don't assume I'm an expert. Please fill me in.
Yeah, it prevents that awkwardness where someone assumes you know all about something just because the name sounded familiar. It's a more honest and, frankly, more graceful way to admit limited knowledge.
Exactly. It bridges that gap between total ignorance and actual expertise. It says, I'm aware of the topic's existence in conversation.
Okay, so hear of is about familiarity with the name or the idea. Passive exposure.
Precisely. Now, we need to contrast this sharply with our next phrase, which implies a much stronger claim about reality itself.
All right, moving on to the fourth phrase. And this one feels heavier. Knows that something exists or knows that someone exists.
It is heavier. We're shifting gears significantly here. We're moving from just passive recognition of a name or concept.
Like with hear of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about active acceptance of something's fundamental objective reality. It's a declaration of fact, essentially.
So this isn't about familiarity, it's about truth.
It's about accepted, verifiable truth, as far as the speaker is concerned. When you use this phrase, you're stating your awareness that the subject is real, that it's present in the world. It's what philosophers might call an ontological statement, a statement about being, about existence.
Ontological, okay. That sounds serious.
It reflects a serious claim. And notice the grammar, too. It's usually knows that something exists.
Ugh, that little word, that. But it's important. It introduces a subordinate clause, that something exists. This whole clause acts as the object of the verb knows. You don't just know the thing, you know the fact of its existence. Okay, so it's different from just saying, I know Sarah. That's personal acquaintance.
Very different. I know Sarah is about familiarity with a person. I know that Sarah exists is a statement confirming her reality, maybe in a context where her existence was questioned or is perhaps surprising. Usually we use it for things, concepts, phenomena.
Right. It's less about personal connection and more about its status in the world. Is it real? Yes, I know that it is real.
Precisely. The focus is on its confirmed presence, its truth status. Using this structure means the speaker isn't questioning its existence, they accept it as established. Let's try scenario deep dive 1. Scientific or factual confirmation. This seems like a natural fit.
Absolutely. Think about scientific discoveries. For centuries, people didn't know that microorganisms existed.
Right, until the microscope. Exactly. The moment of verification changes everything. Before that, maybe some people had heard of theories about tiny invisible things, but they didn't know that they existed. After the evidence, you could say, we now know that bacteria exist.
So it marks a shift from possibility or theory to confirmed reality. Until I saw the satellite images, I didn't know that specific weather pattern existed over the pole.
Perfect. It implies evidence, verification. It's used for things we accept as part of objective reality elements. Species, planets, historical events, whose occurrence is undisputed. We know that the Roman Empire existed. The implication is strong. If challenged, you could point to the evidence backing up the existence claim. That's generally the feeling, yes. It also applies in scenario deep dive 2. Human awareness. Self or others, often about public knowledge or recognition.
How does that work?
Well, think about a huge multinational corporation. You might say, oh, everyone knows that Globex Corporation exists.
Right. Its existence is a public, undeniable fact. Like you see their buildings, their ads.
Exactly. The existence itself isn't in question. But then you might add, but hardly anyone knows what they actually do in their research labs.
That contrast is really useful. Knowing that it exists, objective fact, versus knowing about it, detailed knowledge or expertise.
Precisely. So the weight of the verb knows, in this specific structure, knows that X exists, implies certainty. It implies acceptance of truth regarding reality.
So if you, as a learner, use this phrase, you're making a strong claim. You're not just saying something sounds familiar, you're stating it's real.
You are. It's a declaration of accepted fact.
Okay. The difference between hear of and know exists feels subtle, but really, really important for communicating clearly and honestly.
It's fundamental. And that's why we need to spend a moment really synthesizing these two.
Right, this is crucial. We've got these two phrases dealing with awareness, but they operate on wholly different levels of commitment, you could say. Absolutely. Let's put them side by side.
Yeah.
Hear of something versus knows that something exists. This is where we really get into the nuance of knowledge. Okay, so recap. Hear of is passive exposure.
Passive exposure. Input. The name, the idea, it's floated into your world somehow. Media, conversation, a list. It's like, you've seen the movie poster. You know the title's out there.
But you haven't necessarily seen the movie.
Exactly. Whereas knows that something exists.
It's active acceptance, confirmation of reality.
Yes, you accepted it as a fact, often based on evidence or widespread agreement. It's like you've not only seen the movie, but you can confirm the main character is definitely real within the story's world. Okay, that poster movie analogy helps. Let's try contrastive example 1. Fictional versus real. This seems like a clear way to show the difference. Go for it.
Okay, I can absolutely say, sure, I've heard of dragons or I've heard of Hogwarts. Those names, those concepts, they circulate widely in culture, in books,
Right,
movies.
you've been exposed to the names.
But I would never say, I know that dragons exist. I would say, I know that Komodo dragons exist because their existence is a confirmed biological fact.
Perfect contrast. The line is objective reality. You've heard of the fictional, you know that the factual exists. Okay, let's try another way. Contrastive example 2, the learning journey. You mentioned this earlier. Yeah, think about learning something complex, like, say, astrophysics. An undergraduate student has definitely heard of black holes.
Right, the term is everywhere. They've been exposed to the name, the basic idea.
But do they truly, deeply know that black holes exist in the way a seasoned physicist does? Understanding the complex general relativity equations, the observational evidence like gravitational waves?
Probably not at first. That deeper knowing it exists comes later, with study, with evidence.
Exactly. The initial stage is often just hearing of the concept. The later stage, grounded in evidence and understanding the theoretical framework, is knowing that it exists within the laws of physics as we understand them.
This also clarifies things like conspiracy theories, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Many people have heard of various conspiracy theories. The names, the basic claims circulate online or in certain groups.
But very few would say they know that these theories represent objective reality, because the verifiable evidence required for knowing it exists just isn't there.
Precisely. The choice of phrase, "I've heard of that theory," versus "I know that theory is true," which implies knowing it exists as fact, reveals a huge difference in belief and commitment to evidence.
Okay, so bringing it back to listener application. How do you choose the right phrase in everyday conversation, maybe when talking about current events or new ideas?
It comes down to assessing your certainty and the nature of the thing you're talking about. If you're just checking if someone has encountered a name, a rumor, a niche product, a new band,
You ask, have you heard of?
yes. You're checking for passive input, basic familiarity.
But if you're stating something you consider a verifiable, established fact, like, did you know they finally opened that new bridge? You're implying you should know that this bridge exists now.
Exactly. You're asserting its reality. So if you're introducing something as fact, you operate from the knows exists level. If you're gauging familiarity with something less established or just checking awareness of a name, you stick with hear of.
Making that choice consciously prevents misunderstandings. You don't accidentally claim something as fact when you just meant it sounded familiar, or vice versa.
It's about intellectual honesty and precision. And that precision is a hallmark of moving from just speaking English to truly commanding it.
Which is exactly the goal. These small distinctions make a huge difference. Hashtag tag outro. Well, that brings us towards the end of this deep dive into conversational command. We've really spent some time unpacking these 4 foundational structures.
Yeah, 4 phrases that each do a very specific job in conversation.
We started with seeking clarity respectfully and professionally, using, could you go over that again?
Ensuring accuracy without causing offense. Then we looked at expressing warmth and smoothing social exits with have a good time.
Signaling that cultural fluency.
Right. And then we spent a good chunk differentiating those 2 crucial levels of awareness.
Passive exposure, just knowing the name is out there, with hear of something or someone.
Versus the much stronger claim of accepting objective reality with knows that something or someone exists.
And these structures, they might seem simple on the surface, but mastering them is absolutely key to sounding natural, to navigating different situations, professional, social, with real confidence.
They demonstrate respect, they convey warmth, and maybe most critically, they ensure that intellectual precision we talked about. You're making conscious choices about your language.
You're using the grammar, the specific phrasal verbs, the conditional moods intentionally.
Which leads us, I think, to a final thought for you, the listener.
Okay, what should they be thinking about as they go from here?
The biggest step you can take now is to become a really active, intentional observer of the English being used around you.
Like a language detective. Sort of. We challenge you. Start noticing how often these specific structures, could you go over, have a good time, hear of, know exists, actually appear in native English conversations, in meetings, on the news, just chatting with friends.
Everywhere. Pay attention to the meta-language, the way people talk about knowledge itself. Notice the subtle shift in weight when someone says, "Have you heard of this new policy proposal?" versus, "We know that the current policy exists and has these effects."
The first is exploratory, the second is stating established fact.
Exactly. So start using these phrases consciously yourself. Use them not just to speak, but to really command clear communication. Use them to accurately define what you know and what you've merely encountered.
It's about elevating your confidence by being precise. These small phrases, they unlock much bigger, much more articulate, and much more effective conversations.
Couldn't said it better myself. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Until next time, keep noticing the details. Keep refining that precision.
And keep observing the world and the language used to describe it with that intentional awareness.